Hello. So this is a help video for this is homework 1 part 1. What is it? I think we're in edX 169.2. This is, I guess, I'm confused about the weeks now. It's well, I guess it's week 2 for edX. It is I teach at Ohio Pacific University, where it's week 12. And actually, I think this is a reasonably challenging homework, arguably more challenging than any of those in the first part of the course, and I've made this an optional homework for my students in Hawaii. But I'm going to go through it anyway. And it's very valuable homework if you can do it, but it's just potentially quite time-consuming. And for the Hawaii students, we've got projects to work on, and I think that they take priority over this. But yeah, so this homework on refactoring and legacy code, and clearly you've all read the homework part 1 here. It's all about this thing called Typo, which is a blogging engine, which has got lots of code, and it's got lots of features, and it's got lots of specs, RSpec tests wrapping it, and it's got a few Cucumber ones. So we've got these two parts, and hopefully I'll do another help video next week for the second part. But here, part 1, we need to get it up and running. And basically we're going to add a single feature and hopefully use the behavior-driven development model to start from a Cucumber feature through specifications to get that all working. So let's go in, and what I'm going to do as kind of help is, well, I've already forked the Typo repository. What I'm going to, and I push code back up to it, and so I think probably what I'm going to do here is if I open, I didn't want that to happen quite, did I? I want that to happen in another window. Go on. If I open the old this in the other window and I grab the SSH thing for that, that's usually how I clone things. And I'm just going to take a fresh, well, let me just my plan is to take a fresh copy of that and just sort of run through the initial setup in case that would be anything that you got stuck on. Yep, so I've just got my the old virtual box running here. So where are we? Let's go into what I've been doing. Let's see, here we go. I've got my temp folder here, and oops, yeah, I'm going to make a homework 5 folder. What do I call them? HW. Yep. I sort of see the course as being a continuous one rather than in these two parts. So obviously this is homework 1.1 or something. Let's go in there. Let's go here, and then what I would do is git clone and of course Control Shift paste and pull out. Really you should fork it, and that's I did do that actually to start, and that was actually reasonably helpful. I'm coming around to Dave Armando's approach of forking. I mean, it's funny coming from the sort of code versioning world of previously with Subversion and CVS and so on, where forking was such a and sort of branching was such a fantastically challenging thing to do. It's really so easy in Git and GitHub. It's really growing on me. Anyway, so we've cloned that, and what we end up with is in Typo we've got now basically a whole Rails app there, and we can run rake stats at the command line. So by the way, chapter 8 in the ELS textbook, I believe, is the one corresponds pretty much with this assignment. Yeah, legacy software, and yeah, there's some good advice in there. There's yeah, it's certainly worth having watching the lectures and reading that first. Although unlike in previous assignments, we didn't like that. Oh yeah, so I've got a list of notes of issues that I've run into here that you might run into as well. But yeah, the chapter 8 is more sort of generic advice rather than being. I think certainly if you look at, for example, homework 2 and chapter 4, doing chapter 4 really helps with homework 2, and chapter 5 with homework 3, and then gradually it's the chapters become less specific in the book, and they become more general advice. It's still great advice, and definitely worth reading. But yeah, so you might come up against this. You've already activated rake 10.0.1. Your Gen 5 requires rake 0.992. The standard fix for this is bundle exec, and then whatever it was that you were trying to do. And that's we're doing a lot of things potentially through rake in this, so that comes up a lot. I'll just go. I've got, yeah. So this is me. I've cloned it. In this case, I've taken it straight from the typo repository, which you can do. But then so we can see. Oh, look, there's a lot of lines of code here. We can see the test things in there. Here we can see we've got the specs and different things. So a lot of the code is in testing, and we can see that the code to test ratio. There's about as much test code as there is code. Following on from what's going on in here, let's just run that bundle install. Where's it gone? This recording thing I do. I'm using Screencast-O-Matic to record. But sometimes it sort of interferes with my taskbar there on the Windows 7 that I've got underneath. Bundle install. Oh no, it's bundle install. And then I have to say I don't actually precisely understand why the without production is important. So I'm just sort of doing it. I think my bundle was quickly updated because I've done that already. Completed the homework earlier today. Going through. Yep. So now we need to create a database migration. So break to migrate, and I mean this is zero setting up. I would imagine most people working on this would not have had. I didn't mean that to happen. What are you doing? Go away. I don't need that right now. Won't have had significant problems. I can just click here, can't I? Won't have had significant problems. That's not what I want to do. What do I want to do? It's bundle exec rake db migrate, which will interestingly with the Rails frameworks. A number of people have mentioned. I should open this. I just Control Z and put that in the background and do. I've got Sublime set up. Sublime and do dot. Will that work and do in the background? Yes, there we go. So while that's migrating away, it's interesting to refer to the DB section. And so I think I've been talking to some people online and talking about the schema, and they've been looking at I don't know, different versions of the schema and not seeing this schema RB, and I think not being able to find, for example, a comments table in there, so it becomes important later on. There's no comments table in there. This schema.rb, I would just not particularly trust that. It's these migrations that when we get the database set up, what I've just done here, like so. What it's done is it's totally ignored schema.rb. That's kind of something that you can dump out later on. It runs through all of these migrations in here, and so for example, initial schema here, Control F, comments. Where let's see, find the comments table, create table comments is there. So actually, one of the things, again, this is advice from Chapter 8. I use the Railroady gem to generate kind of a diagram or sort of relational database diagram from the latest version of all the migrations, and I found that very, very helpful. I won't necessarily. There's a couple of things that you have to install in Ubuntu. Maybe we'll get to that if I've got time. Anyway, so what we're doing? Yeah, so we're doing the first thing, getting there. Then we need to do rake db seed. Go back over a little bit here. Let's do that. Bundle exec. Bundle exec. Rake db seed, like so, and that's sticking your basic data into the database. So you've got, I think an admin user and a basic hello world blog post in there. That should have worked there. Now and then, so you could run Rails server locally and start playing with it, but that's actually well, I would argue almost before doing that, see if you can get through to pushing it onto Heroku. I would say almost that was the key. That was the key thing. Let's go back here. Let's see if we can run bundle. Where is it now? I always get confused here. So bundle rake spec. Oh, but bundle. Yeah. Almost you want to. Let's see if we can do it like that. Bundle rake spec. So there's a lot of these RSpec tests, and depending upon your machine and what your setup is, that can potentially take quite a long time to run. I think I'm reasonably lucky here. I've got a reasonably fast desktop machine here. It's running Windows 7. I'm then running VirtualBox on top of that, so it's not as fast as it could be, but it's reasonably fast. And so this, my experience previously at least, was that this would run all of those tests within the space of a minute. which is not too bad. Although it's still, that can be, if you're hacking, if you're chipping away, particularly if you're maybe not familiar with some of the ins and outs of RSpec or Capybara or WebRat or the other bits and pieces that are all involved in these testing things, then that can be a bit painful. And so I'm going to particularly show doing some stuff with the debugger again, as I've done in some of my previous help videos, just to show how you can sort of speed things up a bit. But so one of you get these series of messages about not validating feed because no validator Python's not installed. There's a thread actually on the mailing list. Let's have a look. What I've got is I've got some notes up here on the homework. So yeah, and really Stack Overflow, incredibly useful for almost everything. So I mean, I seem to, initially saw that error before, and then I was like, well, I'm not sure what that error was, and oh yes, right, it's the bundle exec1. So that was a Stack Overflow, and then RSpec complains about the absence of the Python feed validator. There's a discussion on edX. There's some talk about installing things to get rid of those error messages. I actually then didn't bother doing that and just left them there, and I seem to get away with it. Again, depending on the speed with which your specs are running, you might want to go in there and do that. I'll try and make this maybe a neatened up version of this file available with the video, so you've got all the links to the different places I've gone. So that's run. That's still running there, the specs in the background. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I've got 1 minute 30 seconds, 89% coverage. Anyway, they're all run. And what we can also do is run the cucumber tests, of which there's only a couple, and so they run a bit. Although the cucumber startup always seems to be quite heavy, so even though there's only 2 of them, that seems to take a minute or so. Anyway, we'll leave that running in the background. Let's go back to, again, we're still in our setup thing. We just want to make, got to make sure that all of these, you want to know that, okay, this is a legacy code base. You can spend a certain amount of time, looking around in here. There's lots of great advice, or just increase the size of this. There's lots of great advice from Dave and Armando, both in their lectures and in chapter 8 of the textbook. Oh, I have this terrible. I'm on this very high resolution monitor. It's actually like a little flat screen TV for this thing, and for some reason I find it really difficult to get into the corner of, see there, it's the mouse is maybe the problem. There we go, just make that a bit bigger. There we go. Anyway, so you see that the 3 scenarios that we've got in there are all passing, but you really want to make sure before you start playing around with the code that I mean, even looking through it, you could accidentally insert spaces and different sorts of things. Really, before you touch anything, just make sure that what you've checked out is working according to the specification, and that's where having all these specifications and the cucumber tests and so on are really useful, particularly with a large code base. So having got that working, we can in this we could start running it locally, but actually I'll just do create another, like what's it, Heroku create. It would be nice actually if I could see those at the same time. Yeah, anyway, so Heroku create, excuse me, and there we go, git push Heroku master. There we go, git. So actually, another thing here, well, it comes up, might be a good idea to open that. Let's do this. Git push Heroku master. That's right. So this, assuming that you're all set up for Heroku, is good. It might be a good idea if you can just to open. Oh, let's see if I can just click on that and open it. Will let me open it, or do I have to right click? Open, copy links, open link. Let's open that link. I've actually, over the last few years, been creating huge numbers of Heroku apps, and I've realized you can actually update these names. I'm probably not going to do that right this second, but that's something you can do through the Heroku interface and give it a, I wouldn't leave the thing, but just say call this, homework 1. You may end up after doing some more courses like this, like me, with 20 or 30 different Heroku, and you're like, what do they all do? What was that? Another one that I created? Because they're so, they're free and they're so lightweight to create. But also the default, particularly if you're working in VirtualBox, and you may find that the default setting for the terminal size, I think if you go to edit and you can go, where is it? Profiles. I think that's it. You may find that the where's it gone? Scrolling, you only get like 512 lines, and so I think one of the things I did is I sort of deployed and then I redeployed, and I totally lost what the name of the thing was there, and so I've now reset that to unlimited, and that means basically I won't lose any of the edit history. I believe you know that information is also in your git config and so on, but you know, this is one of the things is, you know, I've been programming for a number of years, and I've used Heroku quite a lot, I've used Rails quite a lot. I still sometimes I'm like struggling, like where was that piece of information and which file it is, and you know, yes, absolutely, if everything was completely in the forefront of my brain, I'd always be able to find it, but that's not always the case. Alright, so now we've actually deployed this, this was sort of our, you know, just having created it, now we've deployed that typo code, but I suspect this won't work because there won't be any database set up, and I think David and Amanda have already said, oh yes, that what we need to do is run Heroku run rake db migrate. Will that even do anything there? Application error, yeah. So basically the database is missing, so we need to run the database thing. Now you may find, as I did, for some reason it's fine there. I've run into this issue rather a lot, which is you get permission denied public key. There's a Stack Overflow post that helps you with that. I seem to, but basically there's these you know, SSH keys that need to be set up, and you need to like be in your how was it? I was looking at that for the yes, you've got to be in your, I think it was funny. Well, was it Heroku or was it GitHub? Because I was I can get no Heroku. Oh yeah, so I think the command, there's like a Heroku keys gen command. No, the Stack Overflow post explains it. So that's a point where you might run into issue. I seem to run into that more often than I should. I would have thought, having fixed it once on this box, but anyway. But so now we can see that's actually having run. We've created the database, but we haven't seeded it. And then the final thing that we want to do here is do db seed. So this is, you know, of course, the exact mirror of the things that we've done locally. It would be interesting. They don't recommend running the one. In principle, could be running all of the tests in the Heroku environment. That would be even more. How should we say? Being even more thorough. Although, of course, I guess in principle, this is, you know, Heroku. We've pushed to Heroku, and that's our production environment where you wouldn't usually be running the tests, but one might ultimately have, you know, multiple different, you know, Heroku instances, and one of them is your sort of development, and one's your test, and something like that. Anyway, I mean, there's always this thing going back. I go back many years, go back 20 years. You know, if you're trying to get something working in one situation to deploy another one, you want to make sure that that situation that you're in there is identical as the one that you're deploying to as possible. So, you know, any differences, you know, difference in operating system, different versions, different libraries available, can cause problems. And so, for example, all of the Heroku stuff is on Postgre databases, and you know, ultimately, you know, for a real, you know, deployment thing, we want to get set up with Postgre in our local environment. But anyway, let's see if we can now rerun. This is on yet another. There we go. Shiny weblog. So hopefully, having done that, you can get. Remember, this is still all step 0. This is still just like warm up. So then you have to give your blog a name, and this is kind of the standard. When there's no blog name, this is sort of, you just only see this once. Another SaaSy blog, and email. One thing to notice here is that I think the way typo is set up for email default doesn't immediately work with Heroku. You can configure Heroku for supporting emails. So you'll do this thing here, and you'll say right save, and then it will say it'll auto-generate. It'll give a login admin. There'll be an auto-generated password there, and it says don't lose the mail sent to tanso@gmail.com, and you want to log in more. And you might think, oh yes, right. Well, I don't have to worry about that. Actually, it won't have sent you an email. So you will want to kind of copy and paste and save that password somewhere. In particular, in order to submit the what's it called? In order to submit, what do I want to do here? Let's just do nano here. This would be a submit.txt file, like so. You'll see later on what you need to do in order to submit is you have to create a little file that has first. This wasn't reverse, but what it has to have is it has to have the URL, the sort of base URL there of your environment, not with the HTTP. I don't think. I certainly wasn't trying to do it like this. You have to have your URL you have to have the admin username and the admin login, and you then need to save that, get out of there. And so when you come to later on submit, and that's in the final part, you'll upload that file, and then the auto grader will know where your instance of the Heroku app is. And anyway, so having done this, you can get into and see typo from the inside. There's a couple of two hello worlds on that's collided with something. Did I run that twice? Anyway, but you can also you click there. We can see you get this nice thing. There's also some problem there with the sidebar. That doesn't really seem to affect us much, particularly for this assignment. At any rate, this is part 1. So I just ignored that and moved on. That didn't seem to be a problem. But yeah, so you can sort of play around there and practice. Get the feel for this fairly fully featured blog engine. And but ultimately, I've got different browsers running in different environments, haven't I? Ultimately, if we get back to that, so that's taken us through part 0 and getting set up. Was there anything else I ran into there? Yeah, I talked about all of those. Yeah, no, that was about. So the immediate thing I tried to do just after that was get set up with Autotest, and I found that and again, this is sort of, to a certain extent, there's a decision here about your preferred development style. I do kind of like the idea of working with Autotest. Let's see, and I think it didn't work out of the box for me first time. Should that be rake Autotest? I did ultimately get it working. Bundle exec auto test. No, let's just try with rake. I don't think it works for it. I think you just have to do it raw from the baseline. Which was, so it was a little bit surprising that the framework wasn't set up to, yeah, that didn't work. I think if we just run it raw, I can't even spell, go on, like so. Interesting. Oh, it ran straight there, and okay, yeah, bundle exec may solve this. Yeah, I seem to have a problem. The error that I got the first time around seemed to be that the Zen test. This is what I was getting the error originally. Bundle exec auto test. So Zen test is not part of the bundle, and so what you can just quickly do if you want to have Autotest running is go in here and then there's a stack of posts on this that I'll have in the help support links. So I've got Zen test. So you just slap that in there, and then in principle you can have Autotest running, and that will run the specs and not the Cucumber features. And what that really means is it's sort of, that'll always be running in the background, and potentially you're saving a new spec or maybe bits of controls that hit it. Oh yeah, and then this other thing was I run it the first time and it would be like masses loads of failures. Let's get rid of that, and that was because now what was it? It was having run the Cucumber test seems to leave the database in a bit of a thing, and I think what I had to do, what I found like this, was you have to run rake db test prepare before you run the auto test. Now there's probably a way to sort of get it set up so that just doesn't happen. Again, there's all sorts of trade-off here. We've all got limited time. I was kind of like, for this homework, this is a simple solution. I know I can run rake db test prepare with bundle exec in advance and make the auto test working. And I kind of stuck with that as a kind of a bit of a hack for keeping the auto test running as I was working through the homework. So we'll just leave that running in the background there and go on. Yeah, so we got Zen test, that was the thing. Yeah, and that was then moving on to the rest of the stuff. So so then if we look at, so basically the now onto the main body of the assignment is there's this feature called article merging, which we want to do for this homework, which is about basically taking a couple of blogs and merging them together, and the old one gets deleted and the body of the key thing is that the body of the old blog gets moved into the body of blog B, shall we say, gets added to the body of blog A. So we've got a series of specifications. There's some room for interpretation there. I guess the how should we say, you can read through this yourself. I didn't find the description of this so hard to take in. I'm not sure there's much I can say there. I think what I'm going to try and do now, obviously not going to show you precisely how to do this, but I want to show you some tools and things. Oh well, I will mention down here this tip at the end which says, you know, nesting tags is invalid in HTML. I encountered this problem before reading this note, which is you know, if the whole point here is that what you're going to do in this edit view here, actually, if we can go and just quickly look at that, yeah, so the key place to be working as they show, so that's Autodesk is finished in the background there, and potentially we'll start off again if I save something. But so you've got, for a given article, you've got this page here like this, and as they're showing in their high fidelity version, they want us to add a sort of a form at the bottom here that will allow us to do the merging. Let's go back over here. Yeah, so you can see they want, you know, something like this, and they want in particular this text field and a merge button, so you can say the ID of the article and hit merge, and then it will work. And the thing to note, as they say here, is that you know, there's a big lot of form stuff going on in here, so you need to be careful exactly where you put your form there. So I did get tripped up. That's a very good tip there, so do be aware of that as you're moving through. So, and well, the key thing here is they, you know, as they start writing the cucumber scenarios for the above behaviors. Now, of course, you can approach this whole project by saying, I don't like behavior-driven development or test-driven development, and just start implementing functionality. But that really is going to be very, very challenging in such a large existing code base, where another requirement is that you don't break any of the existing functionality. So I think it's, you know, to the extent that you can, I really do recommend following the advice about starting with, you know, writing cucumber scenarios. Yeah, we need to create these. So the scenarios 1 and 2 above. I guess that may be not entirely clear. I think they're referring to there's for scenarios 1 and 2, but basically that the admins can do this merging operation, but the yeah, I got this in they're calling these things. Yes, I mean, we've got, you know, non-admin cannot merge articles, and when articles are merged, the merge article can contain the text of both results. The way that I approached it is I sort of ignored the whole admin issue to begin with, and I focused on merging articles, and then I later on came back to introducing the whole non-admin thing. You know, it's again, exactly how you do that's going to be to a certain extent up to the individual, but I did follow their advice and started with a cucumber scenario and step definitions. And so if we go, we can at least look at the, you know, I think I'm not giving too much away by just reminding us of the place that we need to go. So we've got features here, and we've got our this is the cucumber features, and we've got our create. For example, we've got existing create blog feature and write article feature, and the key thing here is to do a, you know, merge article feature, and you know, like one of these, and create the appropriate background, and then these multiple scenarios of I'm an admin and I want to do the merge, and these are the buttons I press, and so on and so on, and nice merge happens, and you know, I happen not to be an admin, and I can't see any of it, and I can't do any of it, and so on and so forth. And you know, as usual, it's this process of sort of writing out scenarios, and some of the kind of steps will, you know, make sense and will work already, but other ones will not, and we'll have to kind of go into potentially defining more things in web steps or RB or other steps in order to give an interpretation to the English language sentence associated with each of these things. So I'm going to just get set up with an example here so I can show you some of the debugging techniques, and I'll be back momentarily. Right, so I've just reviewed my notes, and I think what I'm going to do, maybe partly in order not to give too much away, is show you some of the debugging techniques that I think are particularly useful in the context of some of these existing scenarios. And so one of the things that I basically did, my approach, and let's say this is the best one, is I had this one terminal window with Autotest, and I created another terminal window and went to the same place. So that's cd temp. I'll go to documents first. Documents cd temp homework 5, and then we're in typo, and there we go. And so what I would do here is run the bundle exec rake cucumber, and you know, have that running in this window, and use that to drive the operation of my, you know, to moving my developmental process. So again, this is my, I need a new mouse. Anybody want to donate me a much better mouse than this? It's a reasonably nice Microsoft wireless mouse, but for some reason, there we go. Okay, and so one of the key things, so for example, is let's look at these scenarios. Yeah, no, this is a reasonable one. One of the things you can do, and this is the thing, is we've got these huge numbers of tests potentially and so on. Often you want to be able to pinpoint and work on one test. You do need to be able to, you know, then go back and run everything. But sometimes it's particularly given the startup time for Cucumber, it's good to do this. So for example, we can go to Cucumber, and then we can say tab to features, and then which is this? We can say features. This is the create blog feature. Let's do this create blog feature, and then we can even go in further and say let's do the create blog page shown. That's so line 6, and of course that, you know, don't get confused later on if you add different things, that number will change. So you have to. It would be nice if that would be able to index by the name of the scenario rather than the number of the line. But anyway, so that should allow me to run precisely that Cucumber feature, I hope, and it shouldn't affect Autotest here in the background. And there we go. But you see, it does take this little while for Cucumber to start up, and when you're sort of feeling your way, that can be really, really painful. I want to get set up with a better situation where I can use the debugger directly from there. Anyway, so there goes, and that's, has that been ignored? Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Right, I think you have to run Cucumber without the rake command in order to, well, I think there's a, in order to pass command line arguments to rake, there is some syntax with like a minus capital D or something, which is blah, can end up being, again, there's often, you know, prettier way, there's always ways and means to do things. There's a certain way of sort of satisfying and saying run gigs. So there we go. So I'm just running there an individual Cucumber feature. One of the things, you know, let's say for example that we introduce something here that's going to be going to cause that to fail, and as you're going through the process of, you know, you're writing your merge article feature, you know, there's the functionality is missing, it's not there. You're using the Cucumber to drive development of that functionality, so you're going to get situations like this, and you'll get this red thing, and that's okay. And now sometimes you'll be in a situation where you've you know, you've right, okay, you've had the problem, you've used that to drive the development of a, say, a controller spec that's then driving the development of bits of code, and you think you've got it working, and the spec now passes, but then the Cucumber stuff is going to fail. One of the most, if I get the syntax right, if you say and show me the page, like so in Cucumber, I've got it set up correctly. This is just like absolutely huge. So you put that in before the error, otherwise it's not going to get run. And what this will do is show you the page. It's taking slightly too long to run. Is that? I'm not holding it up by doing that. There we go. And oh right. And then you'll see, like, yes, we have to do gem install launchy. Now, did I have to put that in there? Well, we'll do gem install launchy. I was also, so there's this thing called save open page, and you can use that in specs. I had terrible trouble trying to get that to work in with typo. I definitely burnt. Oh, we need of course to do sudo there to get that to work, and of course the password is, oh dear, Control U because I misspelled it. Is SaaS book. That's the, you know, we all know that from the, that's our virtual box password. We've got it installed there. Now I'm not sure if we need, do we need to add that to the gem file? Let's just run that again and see there. Yeah, no, I burnt a lot of time on this trying to get save open page to work in the specs section, in the R specs things. There we go. Has it told me again? Maybe available to open pages with. No, okay. Does that need to be in the gem? Maybe to be in the gem file. I don't seem to remember gem install. Let's throw that in there. I know there were several that I needed. Gem install launchy. Save that, and we do bundle install without production. I'll just go and check that I've got all of these, all the bits and pieces that I needed from that. Yes, and in fact that was it. That's exactly what I needed. Let's go back here. So we've added. Oh, that's my original one. Okay. Also, you can see the railroady gem that I added there as well. Go on. Where am I? This is that's right. So we've got launchy in there. So then showing the page, and what it's done there. You didn't see it in the real time, but it's popped open this window here, and you can see it basically shows us this file. You can see exactly the template that was delivered back to the Cucumber system at this point, and so you can see here. Right. So you see that there's the welcome in the page, and that's the My Shiny Weblog, and of course that was the error that I introduced there. So that's that's really helpful. But of course, as we were saying, in the first instance, you're not expecting the functions to pass. And you may well be writing step definitions and so on. The next step will of course be go into the specs and controllers. And so, for example, we might be in the admin content controller, and so we'll be doing all sorts of things there. Let's go and have a look at something that admins do, shall we? If we scroll down, admins creating with admin connection. There we go. Should edit the article? So for a merge article, you want to be writing something like this, shall we say? And that's going to be failing. And so, for example, here, if we just sort of introduce a failure in there, now what should happen there as I save that is the auto test will kick off, and it should run at least, if not necessarily every single thing, at least the controller tests, the controller specs, in order to encounter that. Now, and you can find yourself, alright, and of course there I get all those Fs, that's because, and you get this ridiculous thing, and that's because, do you remember why that is? That's because I haven't done bundle exec rake db test prepare, and so yeah, it would definitely be useful for me to get set up with that automatically, because it sort of also breaks. You can't really move back, at least in the setup that I'm using here. You can't move backwards and forwards between auto test and rake and the Cucumber things. But what I found my process would be is that I'd spend a lot of time in Cucumber. I'd then say, right, I'm going to go and deal with auto test. I'm going to go into the specifications. So I would run bundle exec rake db test prepare. I'd then go back to the specs, and that I'd then stay in the spec world for quite a long time. So this we should now introduce an error here. I have to remember what I did in that one. I can do Control Z, can't I? Should not there. Now we can also run individual specs in the same way that I just did there with the Cucumber, and that might be particularly helpful in some cases. The key thing in some ways we want to be able to do is introduce the debugger statement in here. It's RB files. I really want to do the same thing in Cucumber. It may be possible to do that because I'd love to be exploring and playing with Cucumber commands from the debugged command line. But so this is the thing. But if you've got potentially auto test which is taking a minute to run there, and you're making little changes here in your spec, and particularly if you're not sure exactly how this syntax should be working, you can end up in this like nasty loop where you're basically gradually learning little bits of this should and contain, and these are all things from our spec, and there's also WebRat, and there's Capybara, and so on in here, and we've got this thing, and you can basically end up burning a huge amount of time going round and round waiting for that all to happen. The debugger is just hugely useful. You should also be able to there's this save and open file, which does the same thing. So here we go. So we've got one failure there. Okay, that didn't work. Okay. So, but you know what you really want. Let's see if we can get that. It certainly didn't work for me the first time. I've now saved that with the debugger. I'm in the Autotest framework. I mean, it's kind of a security blanket there, really. The Autotest framework there is running, you know, lots of this big set of other specs for me to make sure that everything else is still working. And you know, part of the thing here is we don't want to break any existing functionality. But that's, you know, the overhead in terms of time can be noisy. But you notice here is that it took slightly less time. That was I think when I restarted it there, and it ran all of the specs. And here now, when it kicked off because of a save, it only ran them here. And that now, see, undefined local variable or method save and open file. Basically, that really handy thing. I couldn't get that working. It's as I'm understanding it, it's specific to Capybara. Ultimately, as I posted in the forums, I ended up with a sort of a little bit of a different hack. I wonder if I can go to Stack Overflow. Would probably be the thing here. One other thing is, I'm available on Skype, not 24/7, but as long as I'm awake, I'm listening out for Skype things. So if you want to, you know, various people have been getting help from me on Skype. One of the things I've been doing is saying, you know, people saying like, oh, I'm stuck and there's this thing and it's difficult. I've been starting to say to people, you know, please post into Skype. It's you know, let me not. I can XMO an answer in 1 hour. So you know, Stack Overflow, fantastic. Particularly on Skype, if it's not a, you know, if there's a lot of different pieces of information, then I'm gonna ask people on Skype to say, you know, post all the stuff in here. So for example, here I've got my description of, I was just trying to, you know, get this to work, this save and open page, and I couldn't. To do it, there were suggestions that there were different sort of things. Ultimately, I mean, someone will probably come along and show me that there was a different way. There's a simple way to do it. I found the way around it was just to write my own little bit of what's it called? Little bit of oh, I forgot what it's called. What is this called? Rails code? No, this is Ruby code. So we'll take that and then yeah, let's go back over here and put this in like that, and this works in the Ubuntu framework. So what this is basically doing is I'm opening a file, I'm taking the response body here, this is part of RSpec, and I'm just writing that out to a file. So if I now rerun that, what we should find, as well as see that sort of failed there with undefined because the save and open file didn't work. I spent a long time trying to get that to work. I couldn't do. Someone will probably show me that there's a simple solution to that. This ultimately, I think, was the work for me. And what we should see here ultimately is that we'll get into that. This will be saved. It will open up in Firefox, and we'll get into the debugger environment there. Oh, really? Oh yes. Oh, the other critical thing here, yeah, is that you need these in order to run this. This is like a command in Ruby to say run this on the file system. Let's. I will purchase Sublime soon, I promise. This Firefox is a command for the command line that you could run in the Ubuntu shell there. In order to execute that from Ruby, you want these backticks on either side of it. So now, this time finally, this hopefully should work. We will see this. There we go. So, and it doesn't necessarily pull in the CSS thing, and maybe if I got set up properly with the save page and open file, which I really did try quite hard to do, that would work. And now have you? Should be nil, and but you haven't dropped to the. Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, we'll show you. This is extremely handy here. This is actually that page here. This one, at least in terms of being able to see some of the page content. That I found that really handy. Just to be able. That was my hack around it. Now the debugger didn't work there, and that is because we need to have the Ruby debug thing in the env environment. I'll just go and get that set up properly and show you finally how the debugging thing works. Oh yeah, if I can work out, just pause this. Yes, and here we go. So this is the final thing. If you want to get the debugger working within the spec environment, you need to add this require ruby debug to spechelper.rb in the specs thing, and then see, I just saved that. It kicked off again, and so now what's happened is it's run the controller spec and it's dropped me into the debugger here, and that suddenly means that rather than you know, going from this situation here, I mean, one, being able to open and see the file is just huge, because sometimes it'll say I couldn't find the thing, and you know, here's the HTML all in the command prompt, and it's just really difficult and painful to look through. If you can see it in the HTML format, that's very, very helpful. So this is very useful. But the debugger, absolutely huge here. You know, we've seen that in this one, it should get article. Sorry, it should edit article, and it does get edit, and then we've got a response. And so potentially here we can do things like p response. Well, we can see, for example, if we do response body, we can see, look, we've got the entire HTML thing of there. Obviously very difficult to manage in there, much easier if we've printed it out. I really wish I think if it was true that the save and open file would get all the CSS pulled in as well, that would be even better. But the thing that we can do there, has it got other things here, other bits and pieces that we could immediately look at. We can look at other bits of pieces, response. If I do inspect here, well, in particular, one of the things that's really useful is to be able to do things like pre-response class. You can see action control test response. That's what it is. There's other things like response. Response. You can even do like have selector class. Can we do that? That's right. Oh no. Well, another one is kind of cool. If you just sort of randomly throw things, you can find out, look, I'll have selected, that's a bit of web rat. Or for example, we can see that like so, that have field is capybara. Now I got into quite a bit of trouble trying to do things with have field, and it seems to me like the syntax is all web ratty for typos. So you know, you may want to stick to the web rat syntax of, you know, contain is another one. There's, you know, have selector. These are all important ones. But the nice thing potentially here is you can run these things. So for example, I could be saying things here like p response have, no, it should be like should, that's the aspect thing, and then have selector, and then I can start putting in CSS things. So I might be able to say, you know, that I've got a form here, the ID of which is merge, like so. And then the interesting thing here, I did find sometimes that when these, like, this was the annoying thing, doing this sometimes, this would then force the debugger to finish. It would like sort of, the result of calling this would kick off the rest of the tests, which is not so handy. What you really want to be able to do is sort of stay in the debugger and be able to test out the results of doing different things. Another little trick that I did find there is you can drop into Irb mode. In the debugger you have to sort of do p and then sort of print out some version of that. I think I'm sort of out of time here really, but I will just show you. But I haven't really got, you know, many sort of useful variables, but you can, you know, in principle you're creating all sorts of variables here to pass in. You're doing mocks and stubs and so on, and if you're in the debugger you can sort of inspect them and see if they really are what you thought they were, and not have to be waiting, you know, so many times. I mean, so some of you will say, right, well, screw Autotest, I'm gonna just run this individual feature, not feature, was this individual spec. I'm going to pinpoint that in the way that we were doing with the cucumber ones, and that's another reasonable approach. I mean, I guess what I will just do here is I could sort of, you know, for example, I've got, like, you know, if you've got some other operation here where you might be doing, this is my expected text is equal to, I don't know, Fred, or whatever it happens to be. I'm going to sort of save that in the background as I talk over this. So I mean, you can see it's sort of, I mean, you've got the baggage here really of wanting to make sure that all of the different other parts of typo continue working. There's an extent to which if while you're simply working on this one what's it called, spec here, that's not going to have too much influence. If you're playing around with bits of, if you've done your outline spec and then you're going to start making changes in the controller, that's when you really want Autodesk running in the background, to see if the changes that you made have a knock-on effect, particularly if you've dropped something into a form that was a partial that's being shared across multiple things. So here we go, we're back in the debugger there now. So see here, I can now check out and see what was expected text. It is Fred. I can also do IRB -D here, and then I'll get into an IRB environment where I can run arbitrary Ruby code, and so I can just even now type that -D pulls in all the variables. So we've also got things like response there like that. I can see, I can get other things like other methods on there, full path, like so. Oh, I didn't like that. Full path. Maybe I'm not allowed to see that. Anything else interesting, useful I can show you here? It would be nice if there was a sort of a minimized form of that. Let me see. So we've got all this information. The full action control test response there. Yeah, like header. Well, let me just grab the header there. We can do response header. Is that right? You don't like that at all? Don't like that either? Let me get the instant. What I would like is a list of the methods. I sometimes get confused here with anyway, you can muck around in IRB and you can do 1 + 1 is 2 and all the different little things, and so you can kind of try out bits of code that you're going to be using as part of your spec, and then bring them back into your the environment there, and so that you can then exit out of that IRB environment and you're back in the debugger again. So that's I find that very handy. I guess so. The other final things I will say is getting hold of the RSpec and WebRat documentation is really handy. For some reason ultimately I did find the WebRat. This is I find myself bashing around a lot in and not got a wiki there. WebRat. Where was the best RDoc? There we go. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely looking up here. Oh yeah, there you go. Some more information there. I do find myself a bit, getting confused around these things. To save an open page should work in WebRat. I don't know why I couldn't get that to work. Really handy. But there is documentation there. There's also there's blogs. There's different bits and pieces. We've got the Google group. Yeah, here you've got some examples. Maybe I just haven't been finding. What I find funny though is that there is a WebRat cheat sheet, which is really handy, which has got quite a lot of information, more information. That was linked to from somewhere. Is it this one, the Git RDoc? That linked to the cheat sheet itself. That seemed to be much handier. Is that one? That looks like that's gone the way of the dodo. Cheat sheets. I think was it this one? This is one I've been looking at. That also, so the documentation does seem to be a bit broken up. I spent a lot of time really trying to that I was burnt on this project, using things like have selector and to try and work out how to be testing exactly that some form element has the right stuff in it. I'll post some more links in the wiki if I can find back to the bits that I were looking at here. Anyway, and then just finally, one person was asking about Stack Overflow. After I asked them to go on to Stack Overflow, they were saying, "Oh, you know, I had trouble, you know, I didn't want to have to indent all my own code. You know, if we go and look in the edit environment here, if you use this code sample thing here, like if we just, for an example there, if you press the code sample button there and then you enter your code, it will, you know, you just paste it in nicely formatted and it'll be all good. I was wondering if there was a way you can also this is allowed to you know, insert an image, a screenshot. I don't know that there's a way to attach files, but I do certainly recommend getting Dropbox and you know, sticking Dropbox hyperlinks in there if you need to attach files. Okay, and there's GitHub gists and all that stuff. So what we do is cancel and get rid of that. There we go. Okay. Right, well then, so I'm going to wrap up there. You know, those are some of the techniques that I used in the homework to make progress. I'll try and create more of a wiki page with links to all the different things that I mentioned. It is quite a challenging homework. Yeah, you know, but Stack Overflow is your friend. You know, if you get stuck on something, try and write up as much detail as possible. Maybe the process of explaining where you're stuck and what you're stuck will help. You know, and you know, come on the Skype chat room and post the Stack Overflow link in there, and I'll certainly see if I can't help you. All right, let's see if I can help you. All right, well, good luck with the Happy Thanksgiving for those of you in the US, and catch you later. Bye.